Bay Ridge. Welcome to another edition of After Hours. I've actually filming this ahead of time because I was gone on vacation, but I wanted to take a moment to talk in this After Hours about the importance of sanctity of life. On this past Sunday, from when you're able to watch this, was January the 22nd, which has oftentimes been referred to in the past as Sanctity of Life Sunday. It would have been the actual 50th anniversary since the Roe versus Wade decision. Thankfully, Roe v. Wade did not make it to 50 years, for which I am very grateful. And I wanted to take just a moment to talk about why the sanctity of life and us standing for the cause of life and how we can do it in this post-Roe v. Wade era is so important. I was ecstatic last year when the Supreme Court handed down the Dobbs decision and struck down Roe v. Wade, not because I'm against women's rights, not because I'm against freedom of choice, but because I am pro-life, because I am against murdering human beings, whether that is in the womb or outside the womb. And we need to be really, really clear and honest up front. The only issue is this human life in the womb? And from every aspect, the answer is clearly yes. It is clear biblically, where we know that God is the one who knits us together in the womb, that we had sin even while we were in the womb, that John the Baptist was filled with the Holy Spirit in the womb. It's very clear biblically, but it's also clear logically and rationally. There's no other point past fertilization at which one can randomly pick to say human life begins. It's clear medically. This is the first time that the genetic material is there. The recognizable human DNA is there, and that happens when the sperm and the egg bring the two parts of our DNA together to work. For all of these reasons, it's quite clear it's a human being in the womb, and therefore we need to be praying and laboring and working to see the cause of life flourish in our culture. But as I mentioned, Dobbs had struck down Roe v. Wade. It did not do what many said. It didn't outlaw abortion actually anywhere. It just said that abortion is not a constitutional right, which it never really was. There's nothing about it in the Constitution. However, we've seen a reaction since then that shows how much work there is to do. This isn't about politics. This is about the cause of human life. And it's a terrible thing when we're in a culture and our culture is so rabidly against human life, as we see, both at the beginning of life and even at the end of life. We see this with abortion, but we also see it even with euthanasia and different things that are encroaching around in Western civilization. And what that should cause you and me to do is to realize this is still a spiritual battle. It never was political. There are political ramifications, but if we were where we need to be as a culture, this wouldn't even be an issue. It's a sign of the sickness of our hearts and the way that sin is so deeply embedded in our culture right now, in this area, that we need to be praying as believers. There's more we can do. There's going to be a pro-life march coming up, where we get to go out and we get to pray some together and do some things. And I go virtually every year, and I encourage us to do that. But brothers and sisters, none of that makes any difference. It's pointless for us to march. It's pointless for us to have the Supreme Court strike down Roe v. Wade. It would be pointless for us to have laws that are against abortion if the heart of our culture is still rabidly against the image of God in the womb. And the only way that's going to change is as you and I are engaged in prayer. I want to encourage you. I regularly pray for this issue, and I didn't stop when the Dobbs decision was handed down, because as far as I'm concerned, very little has changed. I rejoice greatly because every life that is saved is a wonderful thing, but there is still so much work to be done. There was a sickness in our society when we enslaved Africans and brought them across, and people were held in bondage and lived and died in slavery here. There was a sickness in our society to do that and to deny their humanity. There was a sickness in Germany when Nazism rose and it denied the humanity of Jews and sent them off by the millions to die in concentration camps. And there is a sickness in any society that would deny the humanity of a human being in the womb and would be willing to sacrifice them on the altar of supposed choice, convenience, autonomy of my will. Whatever the reason is, it is a sign of a deep sickness in a culture. And so what we need to be doing as Christians is we need to first and foremost be praying regularly, consistently, constantly, fervently for God to change this. Thanks be to God, there's no more concentration camps to put Jews to death in Europe. Thanks be to God, we're no longer enslaving a particular race here in our country in doing this. Thanks be to God, those things changed, and it took huge effort and work and bloodshed to bring that about. My prayer is we need to see an end come to this in our own day, in our own time, in our own culture. So I want to encourage you with everything I have. Don't forget this issue. Please continue to pray. It's not enough that the Supreme Court struck down Roe v. Wade. It did so rightly. It was never good constitutional law. Many, even people who are pro-abortion, admitted it was terrible constitutional decision from the beginning. It never made medical sense. But none of that was the issue. The issue is what's going on in our hearts. And we need to cry and pray out. And we need to remember there, but by the grace of God, we could be the one. You know, we had looked a week ago at Levi being called. God is calling. If someone is here and you're a woman and you've even had an abortion, or you're a man who talked a woman into abortion, this is not the unforgivable sin. Our God is a gracious God. Brothers and sisters, as we are reaching out to people, and they may be on the other side, we don't demonize them. We need to stand clearly and firmly that this is human life, no matter, just like was in the South during the time of the Civil War, just like it was in Nazi Germany during the time when they were doing the Holocaust. The issues are the same, but we don't demonize. We reach out with compassion and grace and love, both for the child, but also to the one who does not understand. They are blinded. They've been carried off captive by Satan to do his will. We need to pray and labor and work and see what God can work and do in our midst. So I just want to encourage you regarding sanctity of life. Let's not forget it. Continue to stand for it. We will do this until the day that all of this is a distant memory, or until the day that we die and we stand before the Lord. But we want to be found faithful that we stood for the less and the least and the weakest among us, which are those who are in the womb. I hope you have a great week, and I look forward to us gathering for worship this Sunday when we'll be diving back into Mark's Gospel. Have a great week. God bless.